Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Hi, helloey, my name is Loey. Have you been keeping up with the guy on TikTok who thinks that his grandfather is the Zodiac Killer? I have been getting tagged in these TikTok videos in the hundreds from you guys who all said that I really needed to check out this story. Now, this is not the first time that someone has come onto the internet or even just TikTok and made a claim that their relative is the Zodiac Killer. And normally it's not really something that I would bring to you. I think that this kind of stuff is interesting, but at the end of the day, for a case like that of the Zodiac, it's still unsolved all of these decades later for a reason. But I will tell you, there are some coincidences, I guess I'll say, in these videos that genuinely have me rethinking things.
My grandpa is the mother Zodiac Killer, and this is not clickbait, so please, I need the power of the internet to share this, bookmark it, and blow my comment section up.
These videos all come from TikTok user JFoy 3.0. Now, this poster has come out and said that he's not going to be sharing any additional information on his grandfather or his links to the Zodiac Killer, and I believe that's because he's basically in talks with companies who are very interested in doing something with this story. So I kind of wanted to get on this one now because I think that we're going to be hearing a lot more about it very soon. A little disclaimer, because I've never really done something like this. This is all just information that came straight from the grandson of this man's mouth. I am not accusing anyone of anything, but also this guy's grandfather is passed away and he had some things to say about his character that maybe it wouldn't matter even if the man did think I was accusing him of being the Zodiac Killer. But still, this is all just because I think it's fascinating, because I think it's creepy, and because the case of the Zodiac Killer is so fascinating and terrifying to me because it is unsolved to this day.
I want to start this one off by saying, once again, clarifying, this is not me glorifying my grandpa being a serial killer. This is not me excited and happy and pumped up, or as you guys would say in the comment section, flexing. I'm not flexing anything. I'm simply sharing information. I would assume that any human out there who discovered that their family member is possibly a serial killer is going to show some type of emotion.
The first of these videos is sitting at a whopping 11 million views at the time of my recording this, and in it, the poster says that he believes his grandfather is the Zodiac Killer. What's more than that, though, is that apparently internet sleuths have been throwing around his grandfather, Richard Hoffman's name, for years.
I want to start off by saying this is not just based off physical appearance. I typed in my grandpa's name on Google the other day, and to my surprise, internet sleuths have been throwing my grandpa's name around for years, connecting him as the Zodiac Killer. As you can see here in all these pictures on the screen somewhere, that it looks exactly like my grandpa. Let's talk about it. My grandpa was a Vallejo police officer. Yes, the same area where the Zodiac Killer's killings took place. Let's move forward. Let's talk about the Darlene Sharon murder. Let me tell you, this is not in any order, but the more evidence I give you, you are going to be convinced that my grandpa is in fact the Zodiac Killer.
Let's just start at the basics. Who is the Zodiac Killer? Obviously we don't know, but that name has been given as a pseudonym to a serial killer who was predominantly operating in the 1960s in the Northern California, San Francisco Bay-ish area. He has 5 confirmed dead victims, 2 injured victims who did survive, but he has claimed a whopping 37 victims as his own, though they have not substantially been linked back to him in any way. The Zodiac was known for the cryptic messages that he would deliver to law enforcement as well as later on news publications. He incorporated a lot of ciphers into his work. Interestingly enough, back in 2020, I made a video about the fact that the Zodiac's infamous 340 character cipher had finally been solved. That message reading, "I hope you are having lots of fun and trying to catch me." He then says, "That wasn't me on the TV show." We'll circle back around to that. Which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. Because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise. So they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise. death. Now, at the height of the Zodiac killings, the Oakland Police Department actually got a call from a man claiming to be the Zodiac, specifically requesting that either high-profile lawyers Melvin Belly or Francis Lee Bailey appear with him to talk on the Jim Dunbar show. And this is an infamous clip that went around in which people believed it was the Zodiac phoning in.
Famed attorney Melvin Belli, accompanied by police and newsmen, waited 45 minutes today to keep a rendezvous with San Francisco's Zodiac Killer of 5 persons. The man who made the appointment never showed up. The meeting was arranged this morning when a caller, identifying himself as Sam, reached Belli on a KGO-TV talk show. He said he was the Zodiac Killer and needed help. Here's how it looked and sounded.
Talk to us. Just tell us what's going on inside you right now, Sam, please.
I have headaches.
Yeah. How long have you had those headaches, Sam?
In a long time, if I killed a kid.
What? Was it before December that you had the headaches?
Yes.
Were you in service? You might have had an injury in service. Did you ever fall out of a tree or downstairs? Were you ever unconscious?
I don't know.
However, it was largely suspected that this was just a hoax, and in this letter, in this cipher, literally decoded half a century later, the Zodiac Killer himself confirms that it wasn't him. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. Back to the TikTok. In this first video, the poster specifically talks about the killing of Darlene Ferrin.
Darlene Ferrin and her boyfriend Mike or Matt, forgot the guy's name, were driving around Vallejo one night, the night that my grandfather happened to be on duty, driving an unmarked police car and wearing plain clothes. Mike, who ended up surviving the shooting, said that they were being followed around by this car all night in Vallejo before they pulled into Blue Rock Springs. They said when they parked, the car pulled in, a man hopped out of the car, and Darlene, the girl who passed away, said, "Oh my God, that's Richard. He's gonna kill us both." Apparently, she was dating a police officer in Vallejo behind her husband's back. So this guy in her passenger seat is one of her many boyfriends. And it was well known by her friend group that she was dating a Vallejo cop, although she never told them the name. She had a painting party at her house a few weeks before her murder, and it was said that my grandfather, Richard Hoffman, showed up uninvited, and she told her circle of friends that she is scared to death of him, and he was not invited there. My grandpa denies these claims. He says he never laid eyes on her, but then later goes on to say, "I know that she worked at a restaurant locally here in Vallejo." How the if you never laid eyes on her, Grandpa? You tell me about that.
Now, interestingly, there was a call that reported the killing of these 2 people to the police. At the time, the Zodiac, of course, did not know that Darlene was the only one who passed away. And somebody called up the police department and said, "I want to report a double murder. If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you will find kids in a brown car." He said the weapon that was used and then says, "I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." Now, what he likely was referring to in that call was the first of the murders attributed to the Zodiac Killer, known as the Lake Herman Road murders. The victims were Betty Lou Jensen as well as David Arthur Faraday. And following this, the Zodiac would not kill again for 7 months. And when he did, it was Darlene Ferrin.
As Mike said, right before they got shot, she said, "That's Richard. He's going to kill us both." My grandpa's name is Richard Hoffman. It is said that my grandpa and Darlene, the one who got shot in Blue Rock Springs, had a romantic sexual relationship behind everybody's back, behind my grandma's back. Let's talk about his character. My grandpa's character, he was known in my family to be abusive, controlling, manipulating, and also unfaithful to my grandmother. They also say that the crime scene was tampered with. Why did Darlene's family get a call that she was shot before the cops even knew about it? And that call was placed by a payphone outside of Vallejo Police Department. My grandpa was first on scene to that shooting. And later it was revealed that that scene was tampered with. My grandpa showed up on scene within 5 minutes of the shooting being reported. He sent away the officers that responded with him. Who sends away responding officers on a possible double murder?
The evidence that this poster has is really fascinating. Specifically, the misspelling of the word until with 2 L's. Really interesting that both his grandfather used it as well as the Zodiac.
In a letter that the Zodiac wrote, and my grandpa's police reports, and also this poem that I'm going to talk about later, my grandpa spells the word until wrong. He spells it wrong. He puts 2 L's at the end. Where in multiple letters of the Zodiac wrote, he also spells until with 2 L's at the mother end. Well, let's talk about the Sherry Bates murder that took place a couple years before the Darlene Ferrin murder. She was in a library doing her homework. She had just moved from Nebraska. Nebraska, why do I mention that? Because my grandpa lived in Nebraska. My mother, biological mother, was born in Nebraska. My grandpa was also in the Navy. Sherry Bates' brother was also in the Navy. Well, this murder took place. She was at the library studying one night. She leaves and gets shot up, where they found a poem handwritten underneath a motherfucker desk, and forensic analysis and handwriting analysis say that is the exact writings of the Zodiac, and they say that this is possibly the first killing that the Zodiac ever did. Well, this letter was initialed RH at the very bottom. RH, Richard Hoffman. Forensic analysis experts said that that letter was written by the Zodiac. So why is no one connecting this to my mother, grandpa? Somebody tell me why. What are we gonna do about it? I don't know. My grandpa's on vacation in a grave somewhere, but I'm convinced.
So this first TikTok goes insanely viral. I mean, everybody is talking about this. The evidence that this poster has is really compelling. The coincidences are crazy. And so he made a follow-up. And in this follow-up, I think it's really interesting because he actually shows documentary footage of his grandfather, Richard Hoffman, talking about the Zodiac. Specifically, there's a clip in this TikTok where his grandfather talks about coming onto the Darlene Ferrin crime scene.
Here is a clip of my grandpa describing the scene of the night that he arrived of the Darlene Ferrin shooting. I think it's weird. He has a smirk on his face as he's describing the bra she was wearing
during the ride to the hospital. And of course her shirt or sweater, whatever she was wearing, was off. And each time that ambulance attendant blew air into her chest, there was a little piece of material from her bra that I could see fluttered with every breath he blew into that girl.
Now, there was a survivor of the Darlene Ferrin murder, and that was the man in the car with her, Michael. And this is a clip of Michael talking about both what Darlene said as the Zodiac Killer approached the car, and also this friend she had in the Vallejo Police Department that was like really jealous, that would kill them if he found them.
Here's a clip of Mike, the guy in the car, expressing what Darlene said as the Zodiac approached the car before shooting both of them.
Friend of hers, and not to worry about it. He was just jealous. That's all she said about it. He was just jealous. She never mentioned his name, but she said something about Richard. His name was Richard. I kept hearing his name Richard. And I think that was his name. She referred to him as Richard, the Zodiac Killer, the guy.
I also think it's really interesting that Jay has a history in law enforcement. He has a background in both the military and law enforcement.
Me and my grandpa did not have a relationship after the age of 9. I spent damn near every Christmas there at his house up until I was 9 when my father got custody of me. He would abuse my mother, he would abuse my grandmother and his children, my uncles as well. And I learned that later growing up in life. He hated my mother. He did not like my mother. And in turn, she eventually turned into an abuser herself. A little bit about me. I was a federal police officer for 10 years. I served in the United States Marine Corps as well, military police. That's my background in terms of law enforcement. I am no longer an officer. I medically resigned in April 2021.
I think that background really gives him an eye for a lot of this that at least I wouldn't necessarily have. And in the next TikTok, Jay talks a bit more about some of the coincidences, I guess I'll say, some of the similarities between the way his grandfather writes and common misspellings that happen between the Zodiac and his grandfather, Richard Hoffman.
Number one is in his police report describing the Darlene Ferrin crime scene. He writes it out, and this is all in quotes as you can see here on the screen. Pause to read. He writes it as if he's writing a poem, and we know that the Zodiac also wrote the fluidity of a poem. Another thing we're going to tap on is the common misspellings in my grandpa's police reports and also common misspellings in the Zodiac writings. Although the only word that they spelled wrong was the word until with 2 L's, here's a list of both of the ways they spelled words. And a big one is like the double T's or using E's with the ing word instead of dropping the E. My grandpa frequently did that. Something else about my grandpa. He was really horrible at spelling. He hated like crossword puzzles, but he really enjoyed math. And he also was a woodworker. That's what he would like spend a lot of time doing, going out, getting supplies, and spending time in a garage doing woodwork. Could this be a sign of like the coding and the cryptic messages of the Zodiac? Because the Zodiac was also bad at spelling.
And that's really interesting, okay? It could totally be coincidence, as I suppose all of this could be. But the poster makes a point in this video about like how his grandfather handled the Darlene Ferring crime scene, because his grandfather was on the crime scene 5 minutes after it was reported. And this is a little weird to me.
And also, my grandpa, as stated, was on the juvenile division wearing plain clothes in an unmarked car the night of the Darlene Ferring shooting. And his area of operation was to patrol Blue Rock Springs and Lake Herman Road, Lover's Ridge. Well, he reported on the radio about 10 minutes before Darlene Ferring's shooting that the area was clear and there were no vehicles. He also arrived on scene of the shooting 5 minutes after they found out about it, and said that there was no cars. So he patrolled the area 10 minutes before the shooting, arrived 5 minutes after the shooting, and still reported not seeing any cars on the scene. If he already patrolled that area, wouldn't he have seen Darlene Ferring and Mike parked in that parking lot? I don't know. A little suspicious.
And in the last TikTok I have to share with you, Jay just draws some more comparisons between some of the Zodiac's like flowery language, some of the wordage that is used, and kind of, I don't know, I don't think conspiracy is the right word here, but he really dives deep on a couple of things that are said in the Zodiac letters versus like what it could mean in correlation to his grandfather.
So I found this poem written by the Zodiac, and in this poem, it uses the phrase tit willow, tit willow, tit willow. Well, tit willow happens to be a song written by Mikado. And in that song lyrics, there happens to be a mention of Dickie Bird right here. Also in this poem by Mikado, the tit willow, that's the title of it, it states when describing a man who's passing away that he gargled out blood. If you watch this clip here from my grandfather giving a description of the scene, he uses the same type of statement. He was moaning and gargled out blood.
I looked down there, and there was a young guy down there laying on his back. Obviously had been shot. He was reaching up towards me or the flashlight I was holding, kind of gurgling, obviously in pain.
I find that ironic. I may be reaching. You guys can draw the conclusion. Tit Willow is a song by Mikado where the word Dickie Bird is used. My grandpa's name is Richard, a.k.a. Dick. Let's get deeper into this letter. The autograph, the signature at the bottom, is obviously decoded and gibberish. Well, when you put these codes together, these little words and symbols, it just happens to spell the word Dick. Richard, is that you, Richie boy? My grandpa's statement right here, describing the scene at Blue Rock Springs the night of Darlene Ferring's murder and Mike McGow got shot. My grandpa uses poetic terminology, the way he writes, describing the peacocks are singing and it was dark and the breeze was blowing across my face. My grandpa was a poet? Apparently, the way he describes these crime scenes.
So, is Richard Hoffman the Zodiac Killer? I don't know. You don't either, and to be fair, nobody does. The Zodiac is a fascinating serial killer because he was never caught, but also because he gave himself so much room to be caught. Constantly sending correspondence, letters, ciphers to law enforcement, even going so far as to literally leave notes at the crime scenes. In the Lake Berryessa murders, the victims of which were Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, the Zodiac even left this note written on the car: Vallejo, 12/20/68, 7/4/69, September 20/69, 6:30 by knife. And the other dates above that being his previous confirmed kills. It was like he wanted to be caught. And to this day, a name has never been put to the Zodiac Killer. On April 20th, 1970, he actually sent a postcard to law enforcement officers. One that says, "My name is blank. followed by a 13-character cipher that still has not been decoded to this day. And earlier, actually, the letter that Jay was referencing, specifically with the word Titwillow in it, that was the Zodiac's final correspondence with law enforcement officers. He sent them letters and instructions and maps and all sorts of things pretty much throughout 1970, even after his murders had stopped. But the final letter that they got from him was in 1974, in which he said, "I saw and think The Exorcist was the best satirical comedy that I have ever seen. Signed, yours truly. P.S. If I do not see this note in your paper, I will do something nasty, which you know I am capable of doing." And it's believed that this letter was in response to an article published in the San Francisco Chronicle titled "Weird Goings On at the Movies." But also The Exorcist had just won several Golden Globes for Best Film, Best Director, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Screenplay, so perhaps it was in reference to that. Either way, that was the final letter the Zodiac ever sent. And that's really it. The poster does continue to post on TikTok. However, he said he's not releasing any additional information due to the fact that I believe he's working with a team to get his story out there. Again, I don't think we've heard the last of this, but it's something I wanted to bring to you. Did TikTok solve the mystery of the Zodiac Killer? No. This happens on a regular basis, albeit not with this much coincidence, evidence, proof, alleged evidence, but you know what I mean. This is much larger than any other person who's ever come forward to say, I think my grandfather was so-and-so, I think that my relative might have been Jack the Ripper. This one has a little extra kick to it, and there's a lot to it that I really wanted to share with all of you. So no, TikTok did not catch the Zodiac Killer, but I do think it's kind of opened up a door to a conversation that never really closes. I don't think it ever will, not until we actually are able to put a name to the Zodiac Killer at last. So let me know what you think of this one down below. Thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. An extra special thank you to my subscribers who are members of the channel. If you want to join the channel memberships and get extra members exclusive perks like members only polls to help me decide on future video topics, members only videos, and so much more, you can click that little join button somewhere around the screen. We would love to have you. An extra special thank you to my VIP loves for their continued and generous support of the channel. I love and appreciate you all very, very much. I love you all very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.